fear my story is over now. No time left to tell you about my adventures with the Macrex. And perhaps that is for the best. Mother Ogre always said I was long-winded. But then, she would know, wouldn't she? I wish there was still time to go back and see her. To see my friends. Tell them the rest of my story. But there's no time. And I want them to remember me as I was. Not this wizened old husk. I wonder if they still tell legends about me. I hope so. And I hope they're all the truth. I saw so many things. I would hate for them to be forgotten.
The mysterious figure known as Raunip was Aughra's son, but not by birth. He was actually an alien life form that arrived on Thra during the Age of Innocence, by way of an organic meteorite. Aughra took the life which was inside, and using her powerful abilities, molded him into the living creature we know today. Sometime later, when the Macrax invaded, he was tasked with finding them a new home in the untraversable and unsurvivable wasteland known as the Field of Fire, a journey from which he was not expected to return, and after successfully completing his task, he disappeared. But what if he had returned to continue to aid Thra? What would the world look like now? The first aspect we need to address is the fact that Raunip may actually still be alive. After the Field of Fire, he is only presumed to be dead because no one ever hears from him again. But it may be possible that because we didn't see him perish, that he may just be an elusive, reclusive figure, a hermit, only spoken about in myth. He could still be out there somewhere. The most important thing all of us remember Raunip for was his outward hatred for not just the Skeksis, but the urSkeks. And this is something the Gelfling knew well, as he even attempted to lead a full-on assault against them before it was thwarted by Aughra. Raunip believed that because the urSkeks were foreign to Thra, that the Gelfling did not require their guidance, and therefore should not seek their wisdom or protection. So, with that notion in mind, if Raunip had returned after the Field of Fire, those beliefs no doubt would have been rekindled upon his return, and many of the Gelfling may have followed his leadership instead. We know that with Raunip gone, Aughra turned away from Thra, and because of that, the Skeksis would come to take total control, acting as living gods to those who were brainwashed into service. And that was all planned. With Aughra, the living emanation and heart of Thra, out of the picture, the Skeksis became free to rule, and they twisted the minds of the Gelfling into a life of control. But this was only because of the lack of leadership. The Skeksis ruled through fear, but Aughra and Raunip provided leadership through many lifetimes of experience with the planet, something which was forgotten in the shadow of the Skeksis. And if Raunip had remained a part of this world, his vision would not be lost. Now, that's not to say that the Skeksis would not remain in control. In fact, I'm sure that the castle guards and a few dedicated Gelfling clans would stay loyal. And this is because, no matter what may have happened before, the Alliance of the Crystal remains strong. Nothing changes the fact that the Skeksis did step in to save the Gelfling from their impending doom, and even Raunip's words may not have been enough to sway them. Yet, even so, with Raunip still an active part of their history, I'm sure many Gelfling would soon fail to follow. This notion is enhanced by the fact that Aughra may have never gone into her slumber, because I'm sure a major part of her desire to journey the stars came simply from the fact that she was now alone. She had no one except Thra, and all the answers she could possibly hope to seek had now been provided to her. So she departed. But what if she hadn't because Raunip had advised against it? Or if he thought she was gone for too long, he would have at least been there to wake her up much sooner, and Aughra would have never stood for this tyranny. We must remember that time heals all wounds, and after many trying of the Skeksis' rule, and no other conflicts in which to offer their protection, the Skeksis' rule would soon become stagnant, and in that stagnation is where revolution would begin to bloom. Had Raunip still been alive, I'm sure he would garner a large following and vigorous support from some of the clans, so much so that he may have even gained support from the Uru, perhaps not Ursu, but those who decided to live independently, to form their own path, and they would absolutely follow Raunip. Regardless of the circumstances, one thing is for certain. Raunip and his words would not be forgotten. His presence and perseverance against foreign rule would have only strengthened. The only reason that the Gelfling remained brainwashed is because Aughra and Raunip were gone. They became divided and leaderless, and through that, they settled for serving these foul beings because that is what they had been born into. It was their life. They had lost the voice that reminded them of their past. And that is something the Skeksis no doubt would have tried to squash. In fact, as soon as Raunip returned from the Field of Fire, I'm sure the Skeksis would have attempted to silence him right away. But in the end, who would the Gelfling listen to? Tyrants who only wished to rule over them? Or the voice and the heart of Thra, who had guided them long before the urSkeks arrived? Without question, his support would have grown massive, and over time, the world of the Dark Crystal today would be very different. The Skeksis may have still retained some of their rule, but I believe it would not have been so commanding, at least not in the manner we see this day. Currently, we see all the clans collected under the Skeksis, but with their true history kept alive, I'm certain many of the clans, or at least most of them, would not follow the Skeksis, instead choosing to remain independent under the guidance of Aughra and Raunip. And with that loss of power for the Skeksis comes loss of control, and with that loss of control, they would soon become meaningless. This eventual return to form, a return to the past, how things used to be, would lead the Gelfling to solve the mystery of the Skeksis and the Uru, and secrets long kept hidden would be revealed at a rapid rate. And through all of that, there would be no Gartham Wars, no Gelfling extinction, and no Gelfling prophecy. It is entirely possible, depending on the circumstance, that Jen and Kira's story would never need to play out, because under the guidance of Aughra and Raunip, the Gelfling would be able to return power long before a war broke out, identifying the crystal shard and forcefully returning the crystal to its natural state. History is the most powerful teacher, in any case, and in any form. It's fascinating just how much is lost when we lose touch with the truth of our past, and that is precisely what the Skeksis accomplished. By removing those who kept this wisdom, the Skeksis were able to write their own history. They were unquestioned, unchallenged, and free to rule. But if Raunip and Aughra had remained by the Gelfling's side, there is no doubt in my mind that our history of the Dark Crystal would be forever changed. Well, my friends, those are all of my thoughts. Now it's time for all of you to leave your theories and ideas. Do you have more to add? Another point of view? Another story? Let me hear all of your thoughts and opinions. Leave them down below in the Great White Void. As always, until next we meet, take care, for Thra, for Jim, and I'll see you guys back here for the next video very soon.